Hi, this is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media. Welcome to another episode of Path to a Million podcast. Remember, we've got a live Q&A about all this stimulus bill stuff coming out. It's tomorrow, noon, on the Dr. Nick Silveri page, noon central. So this question is, what happens if a portion of the loan is not forgiven at the end of the 8 weeks? So you get the loan, let's say $50,000. Let's say you get on April 1st, which you won't be able to, but let's just use it for time's sake. April 1st, you get the money. You now have 8 weeks to spend it. So basically the end of May, you now have to spend that money. Not even the end of May, it's like maybe a couple days before the end of May. But you get 8 weeks to spend it. You can use it on covered categories, and you have to make sure that you meet the requirements of maintaining the number of your employees and maintaining the level of your payroll above 75%. And at the end, the way it sounds like it's going to work is you're going to have to prove that you paid this money to these covered categories. And so I've given some tips on how to make sure that is clear as day that you used them on these covered categories. I'd probably use checks so that you can make sure that they get cashed, and you can just show, cash check stubs that these went through and these paid for. Not for your payroll. Like payroll, you should just pay it the way you normally do. You'll just be able to run a report. But for like rent, utilities, this interest on these loans, any of that stuff, I would pay in a check so that it's so clear for you to be able to point. And I'd put in the memo line, interest on business loan, rent for April, utilities for April, like whatever it might be. Be very clear that you're using it for these covered services. So let's say you use it for some non-covered services, or say you don't get your staff all the way back to 100%. So let's say they only cover 80, or they only forgive 80% of the 50,000. So that means you got 20% left that would then get turned into a loan. That'd be $10,000. You would pay 4% interest on that, and it would be covered over the amortization would be 10 years. So you have 10 years to pay it, but you don't have to start paying the payments right away. The payments would be super low on something like that. It would be, maybe like $100. Probably like $100 a month, maybe a little bit more, but not a lot. It would not be a lot of money. You also would get to defer that, and they would not, you wouldn't be accruing interest or anything in the meantime. So you'd be able to defer that payment for at least 6 months up to 12 months. So they're going to be very generous with the repayment terms if you do have to turn a portion of this into the loan. So this is why I just don't recommend it. Like, it's one thing if you're not going to get the whole loan forgiven because you don't have enough employees back on staff, or your payroll is not as high as it should be. That is kind of like out of your control. But what is in your control is just don't use this money for non-covered categories. Get another loan if you need money for non-covered categories. That's what the disaster loans are there for. That's what the local loans are there for. A lot of the local loans, the state level, city level, county level, maybe, those are going to be loans at probably, like I've seen 0%, I've seen 0.25%. So those loans are going to be a lot lower interest rate. The repayment time might not be as long, but the interest is super low. So, and with these cities, I think they're just trying to keep their tax base afloat. So they're probably going to be real generous with like paying it back. They just want to, like, all these government agencies are just trying to help you get through this crisis. So that's basically what happens if a portion of the loan is not forgiven at the end of the 8 months, or 8 weeks, sorry.